So, there's a problem with the twins. If this is the first time you're seeing my face, I'm Jessica and my wife Claudia is currently 28 weeks into a modi twin pregnancy. That is identical twins who share a placenta but have different amniotic sacs. It hasn't been the smoothest pregnancy so far. You can watch more in the pregnancy video playlist up here. It started out as a triplet pregnancy and then we lost one at 11 weeks, so these two little girls are already very loved and very wanted and have been making me panic about them the entire pregnancy already. And now we know it's not just me being anxious, there really is a problem. As part of having an identical twin pregnancy, we get fortnightly scans at our local hospital to track their growth. Make sure that they're developing properly, are they the same size, do they both have the same amount of amniotic fluid, that they don't need extra help, Identical twins are a single fertilized egg that splits into two embryos. So when they're developing in the womb, they have some kind of unique and increased risks that they share due to how closely they share resources with each other. That might be a growth restriction where one twin kind of grows significantly slower than the other. Just because you have a placenta with two cords coming out of it, it's not like the placenta just decides to split itself 50-50 down the middle and they definitely both get half of it. They might get Twin-to-Twin Transfusion Syndrome, or TTTS, which occurs in twins who share a placenta because their blood vessels in the placenta can become connected, and one twin, the donor, starts pumping blood into the other twin, the recipient, rather than around their own body. So then this twin gets lots of blood and this twin has not very much. They might also get twin anemia polycythemia sequence. Also a blood flow imbalance, but it's kind of rarer. It's where one twin becomes anemic and the other becomes polycythemic. That is a complex one. Essentially, this one has too many red blood cells. Obviously, premature birth is just kind of listed generally as its own risk, but sometimes it is safer for the baby to continue developing on the outside than on the inside. There are lots more risks, I am sure. Doctors love to tell you how risky your pregnancy is. But anyway, last Thursday we went in for our regular fortnightly ultrasound, expecting it to take an hour, as normal, go straight in, see the ultrasound tech, upstairs to have blood pressure and pee checked by the midwives. Quick, feeling good? Yep, with the doctors, and zoom, she's out of there. We were so sure of this going like clockwork that we did something special and booked to immediately drive up to Legoland after the scan. Genius. Absolute genius. So we took our 3.5-year-old with us to the hospital. Brilliant plan. Obviously he isn't allowed to go into the actual scanning room, but that's fine, right? Yeah, I mean, I come most of the time. I don't need to come this one time. I can sit outside with him. It's just one of our routine ultrasounds. And at this point, she's had about 50 of them in this pregnancy. Nothing out of the ordinary would happen, right? Wrong. So whilst I'm sitting outside in the sun with Rupert, playing a game where we pretend to be farmers, and the benches in the parking lot are our tractors. That's very superfluous information, but it feels very vital to the story. Claudia is inside being told that even though the babies themselves are still the same size, and even though 2 weeks ago their amniotic fluid pools were vaguely the same, today they are 11 centimetres and 1.3 centimetres. And the membrane that should be free floating between them instead is just wrapped around twin 1, who has barely any fluid or space to move. And she keeps trying to text me and update me, and I am suddenly very aware that I am stuck at a hospital with a highly sensitive preschooler who will sniff out any hint of emotional wobble. And she has to have more tests, and we can't leave the hospital in case this turns out into an emergency situation, and I need to be able to rush in, and I can't really call someone to drive over to the hospital and pick him up, because at any moment the hospital might say, no, it's fine, you've got time, go on your way. And then I've made someone drive out to the hospital for no reason. The hospital is not actually that close to where we live. Also, he knows we're about to go to Legoland, so there's no way he's leaving my side until he sees an entire land made of Lego. Good luck with that. So we spent 4.5 hours walking around the hospital together, we make up a scenic tour of the sculptures, we give the vending machines names and complex backstories. Janet. Be surprised what her favourite crisp flavour is. Until finally Claudia gets released. She is allowed to go, but she has to be back in 48 hours, and we have an appointment with the specialists in London next week where we will learn more and get confirmation about whether it is what we all think it is. Late onset stage 1 TTTS. So we went to Legoland. Oh, just to be clear though, because I realise it does sound like we are actually driving to London right now to see the medical specialist. No, we're driving to Legoland still. We're going to Legoland.
The doctor was like, we're gonna refer you to a specialist unit in London. I was like, oh, but can you please just tell them I'm not free tomorrow because I've got to go to Legoland with my son and he's been really excited about it.
Obviously, I'm really care about these babies and I'm really worried and everything, but like,
yeah.
My toddler's concerned.
Exactly. So luckily he just rang and said it was going to be next Wednesday. So. Just spent the night at the hotel and now we've arrived at Legoland. And Rupert's very excited. There's a lot of people here because it's the Easter holidays and it's a nice, lovely sunny day.
If Rupert is about to become a big brother earlier than expected, then we definitely wanted to make some great last memories as a family of 3. The next day, as soon as we were back into town, Claude dropped us off at home and went back to the hospital. Again, she was meant to have a quick check with the Dopplers, but it ended up taking over 6 hours as the babies were lying chest to chest and their heartbeats kept synchronizing. It's obviously really difficult for the machine, which keeps reading that there is just one baby heartbeat when their hearts beat perfectly in unison, but also pretty sweet. Like, they clearly need each other very much and they're very connected already. Although the doctor has told us that twin 1, who is more constricted, may soon have a growth problem as she can't really stretch her limbs or move around. Twin 2 is sort of floating, but a bit too much. Claudia can't feel either of them moving at the moment as much as she used to, which obviously worrying. One because there's too much fluid and the other because she just can't move very much, and I mean that's stressing her. Claudia's just like very uncomfortable and in a lot of pain. How are you doing?
I've been better. I've got some really searing pain. The only way I can describe it was it feels like the pain that I felt after my cesarean section once the anaesthetic wore off. So I can basically feel like my C-section scar. But then I think it's because this is so round and turgid. This is exactly. Jessica was laughing at me saying that word, but it's exactly.
I just hate the word turgid.
It is exactly the right word at the moment. It's filled with fluid.
It's so much bigger than it was. I feel like this angle isn't. Hang on.
It happened so fast. Like last Thursday, it went for the scan.
You didn't know anything was wrong.
I had no idea that there was anything wrong. And then the sonographer said there's a big difference between the fluid levels, but I still didn't really feel any symptoms. And then as soon as he'd basically said that, 24 hours later, I started getting that tautness in my tummy. And like now, what is it, 5 days later? It's like really taut and big. I've got a backache. I'm like constantly thirsty. And I weighed myself and I've gained like 4 kilos in 3 days, which I was like, wow, the babies have really grown. I was like, wait, no, that's just all fluid. This is another symptom of TTTS.
So what is TTTS? What is Twin-to-Twin Transfusion Syndrome? Like I said earlier, it's a condition that can occur when twins share a placenta. Their blood vessels get kind of confused, and rather than pumping only towards the baby, instead start to take from one baby and give to the other. And the donor twin, the one that's been taken from, becomes anemic and growth restricted, and the recipient twin gets too much blood, which strains their heart and also causes excess amniotic fluid, and that is the main symptom that we have. So our donor twin, who is our twin 1, but it isn't always that way, has low amniotic fluid, which is called oligohydramnios. Yeah, because they are producing less urine, which is a big part of amniotic fluid, and then the recipient has polyhydramnios due to receiving extra blood and producing more urine. Now, TTTS generally presents between 16 and 26 weeks, so it is really unusual to be diagnosed with it at 28 weeks, but it's not unheard of. It's generally a progression of a previously mild case. Only one in 10 identical twin pairs will get this at all to any degree. And generally it's a chronic problem, so something that happens over a very long period of time, and it isn't a big problem that means it has to be acted on immediately. It's just a slow thing that's there, and it might resolve itself, might progress, but it's unusual to have it be so late, so sudden, so much. Ours was not picked up on at all before this very obvious point. So the next stage is going to be tomorrow when we're seeing the specialists in London. They are going to do a very detailed Doppler study because they have much better equipment. They're actually measuring the precise blood vessels and measure the blood flow in the umbilical cord artery, the ductus venosus, which is how blood moves from the umbilical cord directly into the baby's heart, and the middle cerebral artery, which is the blood flow in the brain, which we hope has not been affected. Then they look at their bladders to see if they are both still visible. For all of these weeks, they have been the same. And now suddenly twin 1 has a tiny bladder and twin 2 has a huge bladder. They will work out what stage we are at, I think, and I am not a doctor. I'm just a panicked parent who is related to a lot of doctors. It's called the Quintero staging system for TTTS, and it helps to kind of classify the severity of the syndrome and guides management decisions. So stage 1, so oligohydramnios in the donor twin, meaning that the deepest pool of amniotic fluid is under 2 centimetres, and polyhydramnios in the recipient twin, with the deepest pool being 8 centimetres before 20 weeks and 10 centimetres after 20 weeks. And bladders should be visible in both of the twins. At this stage, it's just kind of monitored closely. It may remain stable, it may progress. Stage 2, same as stage 1, but the donor twin's bladder is no longer visible on ultrasound. Considering the sudden pain that Claudia is in and how everything is going so far, probably going to be us on the scan tomorrow. I know, where to begin? Okay, so we had a really good first meeting with the doctor in London. He's this really lovely, very impressive professor. We got the best.
Yeah, he's the director of the department, so we couldn't have been in better hands.
No. And he has been since we were in primary school.
Yeah.
Which for some reason brought me this really extra added level of comfort.
Did the scan really fast, really, but was looking at everything really accurately, and I'm not an expert, but I've had a lot of scans now that I kind of know what they're looking at, and and he straight away was just like, they're okay, but they're not going to be okay unless we do something. And then he just basically was like, have you had steroid shots? I was like, no. And he's like, okay, my colleague's just going to take you into this consultation room to the side. I'll come talk to you in a minute. So that was like all the information we got. And we were like, okay. And then the nurse came through and we were like, we don't know what's happening. She's like, oh, has he not said? And we're like, no. And she's like, oh, okay, let me just go out and check. And
for those who don't know, steroid shots are given to babies who are born preterm to help their lungs grow rapidly so that they are ready to breathe when they come out too soon. Yeah. So we were like, okay, if you're immediately talking about steroid shots, then are you taking these babies out right now? Is that happening? And they were 28 weeks and 6 days at this point.
And then she came back in and she said, oh, it's not happening today, it's going to happen tomorrow. And we were like, what is?
So the babies are coming out tomorrow?
And she's like, oh, I think it's like you're having the laser ablation and amnio reduction. And we're like, okay. It probably was all happening within like 2 minutes. They were really fast. And then he came in and basically said we had 3 options. Option 1 was you don't do anything because of the size of my uterus and how everything had stretched. My body was going to basically think I was like beyond 9 months pregnant and my waters would break. Preterm birth would be like imminent. Like he said, it would happen within 7 days, like if not sooner. We would do amnio reduction where they just removed excess fluid to try and relieve my symptoms of, like, basically that's just relieving my symptoms and try and reduce the pressure on my cervix.
And at this point she had gained 6 kilograms in
Like 4 kilos.
5 days. No, because at the highest point, I think you gained 6 kilos was the largest amount gained.
Yeah, but it was a lot.
Okay.
Or the third option was doing laser ablation, where we actually treat the TTTS, where he uses a laser to basically sever the vessels that were joining the two twins together, which is what causes the TTTS, and at the same time do the amino reduction. And he basically was just like very strongly like, I would suggest doing number 3.
I think he described it very well as kind of like, it's like mopping the floor. So you can mop the floor, but if you're not fixing the hole in the roof that the water's coming from, why are you bothering to mop the floor? So it's like, yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. Why just...
Yeah, and I said, and I said, okay, but what are the risks of doing that treatment? And he says, the only risk is preterm labour, which you're already at, which is like definitely going to happen. But if this works, there's a 1 in 4 chance of preterm labour, but then there's like that 3 out of 4 chance that you'll get like more time and your babies will not be suffering with the TTTS syndrome.
Yeah, a bit more time.
Yeah, so, but he didn't know how long, but... No. So we were like, okay, well obviously let's go for that. You need to have steroid shots like 24 hours before delivery. He said you have to come back tomorrow for the treatment, so that we can allow the steroids to work in your system, just in case we do need to have a cesarean section whilst we're doing the treatment.
Yeah, you had to get consented for all the different things that could possibly happen. In
case I had a cesarean, like spinal and like what, consent, all of that. So it was all really like, whoa, it happened really fast.
I know. And they were talking to me about like, yeah, you can be in the room up to this point, and then if this happens, and I was like, oh gosh, I can't.
Yeah, I even had to. He was like, do you want to do the consent forms for general anaesthetic now, or should we do that if and when? And we were like, let's just do that if and when. It's just like so much information.
Don't please no.
So then we were sent home, which felt quite scary because I'd driven up, so I had to drive back with this massive, knowing I had this massive like balloon of excess water that could pop any moment. Time.
And a number of different
Jessica's many days of being bedbound have come in handy. She's like, this is the best way to lie with the wedge, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. We've got to get up early tomorrow, drive to London.
Luckily, my sister's going to drive because I could go into labour any time. And we've got to stay the night there, so we don't want to just leave the car there. And Jessica can't drive the car back. So if we do end up having a cesarean, our car would just be like stuck up in London. Yeah. So my sister's going to drive. You and I are going to stay in the hospital overnight. Hopefully everything will be fine. I won't go into labour and we'll be coming home on Friday.
Yes, that's what we've told
That's the plan. My dad's here tonight, so that someone's here with Rupert in the morning. He just gave me about like 4 cuddles.
Rupert or your dad?
My dad.
Well, that's worrying. British man gives cuddles. More than one.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I love you. Gave me a big cuddle like 4 times, and then said, I wish your mum was here. And then I know, me too.
Anything ready? Okay, they're going to stay in.
Yes.
Stay in there. So much smaller. Well done.
It actually moves when I breathe now.
Yeah. And you can breathe and talk.
It wasn't like moving before. No. You filmed my belly that night, and it's just like, whoa.
That was not a comfy night.
I don't think I got any sleep. Probably because I was anxious, but it was mainly also just like really uncomfortable. Yeah. And as you can probably tell from my voice, it's not quite 100% normal, because I think I've got compressed lung space. Because even now, post-treatment, there is more fluid than what you would normally have. And there were like so many people in theatre. Because they said like, there's lots of us in here because you're quite an interesting case.
Very interesting, because it's an atypical presentation of a late onset TTTS.
Yeah.
So it normally does not
I mean, they did all introduce themselves, but I can't remember. It was a bit
They go
overwhelming.
so quickly. They just say their name and their job.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
But yeah, it was a very full room. I mean, there was probably about 15 people in there,
Yeah,
plus us.
I know.
And I was like shaking.
Yeah, you were lying on the bed shaking away, and I had to put my hands on your shoulders, and that was it. And I wasn't supposed to move at all. And then the other way, and I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, they had real trouble trying to get my cannula in because my veins were basically like, not today. They just basically all hid away because I was so nervous. And like in my head, I'm like fine, like I can be completely rational and like calm, but my body tells me otherwise. Like I was just like shaking and like clammy, my hands were sweaty because I was like, well, one, I was about to have like keyhole laser surgery, which was scary in itself. Two, I was like worried about the babies.
Yeah.
And also I was like, this might suddenly become a cesarean, which is like I'm not mentally prepared for yet.
She's recovering.
My stomach looked smaller. I mean, it's still big. There's still two babies in there. But from this angle, it's quite interesting because like just now it wasn't like a regular shape because like there was a bum here or something and something going on down here. I can actually make out the babies a
Yeah.
bit more.
Also, you said you can now see your belly button.
Yeah, I can actually see my belly button again.
Ooh. It's very exciting.
So I'm not having that searing pain in my C-section scar anymore.
That's good.
That's
yeah,
done.
it's less swollen. And you only have a teeny tiny little scabby hole.
Yeah, where they put in the fibre optic camera and the laser. It's quite amazing. Basically, I had keyhole surgery. That tiny hole.
I'm stunned by that though. We've seen our babies.
You saw a toenail.
Yeah.
And
We
their
saw
little-
toes.
And their little like limbs moving around.
Now we can actually feel them moving again.
Well, I can. No, you can too actually. When you
Now
put,
I can.
when you put
through
your
the
hand.
skin.
Yeah, through my skin.
I couldn't before.
I see how the shape is like. Whoop. There's like a little dip there.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like. But anyway, it was all fine. We felt like we were in really safe hands.
It was incredible.
We got to actually watch it, like because it was just done under local. So I could feel the needle, the local anaesthetic go in, but it wasn't too bad, to be honest. The steroid injections are just as bad. And I could feel like fluid coming out, which sounds alarming. Amniotic fluid like burst, like came out just from even just where the local anaesthetic needle went in because it was just that full. Then they put the fibre optic cable in and the tube, and we could see, and it was amazing. Like
We saw inside her womb and inside the amniotic sac, and there's a probe and our baby in this sac. It goes in and they have to try and use the laser to burn the ends of the veins, but it doesn't hurt the baby. It doesn't hurt you, and it's all right. And I was very much like, is it hot there? Like, is
You
that why
kept
the
asking.
baby's moving so much?
it was quite a strange
Are they
sensation.
okay? And he's like, no, it's just because there's
Yeah.
something in there with them.
They said
That's
that
odd.
I could maybe feel some like cramping, and that the cramping would be maybe quite severe, but it really wasn't that bad. Like I think I've got quite a high pain threshold for one,
Yeah.
but also I think I was mentally preparing for a lot worse.
You said it was like bubble wrap.
Well, when they use
Popping.
the actual laser, when he says fire and the laser goes off, it felt like popping like bubble wrap inside me. Like it felt like that kind of weird feeling. Like it would be quite uncomfortable if it lasted more than a microsecond, but it was like just a microsecond each time.
But just for me, the most incredible thing though was seeing
Yeah, and then you
seeing
see
inside
massive-
a thing we never normally see.
and then you see this massive arm coming across because like the camera is only 2 millimeters thick. So and obviously all the like veins and arteries that they're trying to like seal off are like 1 to 2 millimeters wide max. So they look like in proportion they look big. So then when this like baby's limb came along, it was like, what is that? It's like seeing like a planet in space or something, isn't it?
Oh, like, look at that ginormous toe.
Yeah, but, and then he like, and
So
then he
big.
went up with his camera onto a toe and said, "Look, there's your baby's toe," and there was like a little toenail.
And we saw
We
the
did
other
say-
baby through the membrane.
Yeah, because they only went into one sack, just the big sack.
It's so light in there. That sounds dumb, but I didn't think it would be so light.
Yeah, it's just red and light,
In
isn't
there.
it? Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's dark right now for them.
Yeah, you're wearing a dark top, so
Yeah, and then once they did the laser ablation, which took probably 10 minutes, because there were only 4 vessels crossing over, then they did the amnioreduction, which I didn't feel at all. Like, I thought I would feel it, but I just didn't. I think they did it really slowly, because he says if they did it too fast or took too much out, it would trigger a contraction, and my body would think my waters had broken. So they had to remove maximum 2 litres, even though he probably could have taken like more than 3 litres. But I did feel instantly better, to be fair. But that night I didn't sleep well because I was like full of steroids, which gave you insomnia. But like after that, after that first night in hospital, I've slept like so much better. I can actually lie on my side without like feeling like I'm just like lying on a massive like beach ball.
And so now we are at 29 plus 5.
Yeah, so it's almost a week later from when we first went up to St George's. And we've got to go again tomorrow for a follow-up scan. They did do a scan 8 hours after the procedure, and there was already an improvement seen in the blood flow between both the babies. And there was even a tiny bit of fluid around twin 1 when the day before there hadn't been anything. And also twin 1 hadn't had a bladder visible on the Wednesday, but after the procedure there was like a tiny bladder visible, so it showed that within 8 hours them doing the laser ablation and cutting off that blood supply that the donor twin was giving the recipient twin had already made like a big difference to them.
Yeah.
And I felt so much more movement, and I don't know whether that's because, one, I'm not so like turgid, so I can actually feel movement against my skin.
Yeah, I think if your skin is solid and someone knocks against it, you're really not going to feel it.
But I think they also just started moving more. I think they weren't moving as much because the small, like, twin 1
was like this.
Restricted.
I had no space.
And
twin 2 was just floating around.
Exactly.
Too much water.
And I think they probably just had like headaches and stuff. Like their hearts were like pumping really hard. Like they had like constricted blood vessels. Like twin 1 had constricted blood vessels in her brain, which we have to follow up with MRI. And then
he did a 3D scan of twin 1 for us. She's so beautiful. And she had her little hands like, oh my head.
Yeah, she had a hand on the back of her head like she was having a headache. Yeah, so I like to think they're feeling much happier now.
Yes.
And moving around more normally.
Yeah, and then from here, so we've got the scan tomorrow to check on things and make sure the TTTS has kind of gone and hasn't come back or isn't continuing.
Yeah, because it's an atypical presentation. He says he's pretty sure he's treated it correctly, but he doesn't know because maybe there's some other reason why there was that fluid discrepancy and stuff going on. Yeah,
and we also have to have a cardiogram for the twins, but especially for twin 2, whose heart is bigger and more muscly because so much blood was going to her and pumping around her body, and she was dealing with so much of that.
Her heart was working harder, so she got hypertrophy of the muscle, which basically means her heart muscles just got bigger.
Yeah.
But he did do a quick scan of it after the procedure and said it looked functionally like it was okay, so hopefully there wasn't any heart damage done yet. Obviously with TTTS that is one of the complications that can happen, but hopefully hopefully everything was done just in time, or
Yeah, hopefully we've caught it. It's good. We know that they are going to be coming early. 34 weeks is now the kind of goal.
Yeah, we were told originally with MCDA twins 36 weeks is your kind of planned scheduled C-section date, but now with this TTTS complication we've been told it should be like 34 weeks. But he says it will all depend on how I do in the pregnancy and how the babies are doing. There's also a much higher chance now that they're going to come before 34 weeks just on their own accord.
All we can do is be positive, think good thoughts, bum.
This
is you just have your teeny tiny...
This is the little hole
I had my first
that they went through to do all that treatment. It's quite amazing.
We're back in London at St George's. We're going for the follow-up scan to tell us that everything's fine and they're going to stay in there. Procedure well.
So yeah, thank you, and thank you to everyone who sent us incredible, really sweet messages on Instagram or left lovely messages here on videos.
Yeah, and people who shared their other similar experiences with either preterm birth or TTTS. It's really helpful.
We really wanted to share our experience and what we're going through because there are other people going through the same thing, and it's the thing that's helped us most is seeing other people
Yeah.
who've gone through the same stuff come out the other side. It's going to be us. We'll
Yes.
come through.
We'll do an update as well.
We will.
When we have more information.
Yes. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. For your
Everybody keep their fingers crossed that they stay in for as long as they can.
Everyone keep your fingers crossed. Think positive thoughts, everyone. Bye.
Bye.